Okay, we are live. I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my co-host, Miss G, Miss Georgette Truan. Good evening, Miss G. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. And we have a very special guest tonight, Miss Farmer. Miss Farmer, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing good, Miss Farmer. What state are you from?
Florida,
Florida? What part of Florida?
Jacksonville.
Oh, okay. I've been to Jacksonville about 6 or 7 years ago. I was there for a convention. Very nice town. So this is a CPS show, and I guess you have an issue or have had an issue with CPS. Tell us what's going on.
So I've been dealing with CPS for 3 years, on and off. It started in 2020, August the 23rd of 2020. They first removed my children. My oldest daughter burnt my youngest daughter's back, and I took her to the hospital. There was no medical treatment administered to my child until maybe 7 or 8 hours later. The doctor came in, she started taking pictures. She told me that she alerted me that she was calling CPS. And once CPS arrived to the scene, the doctor was really adamant about CPS removing my children from me. CPS had drug tested me while I was at the hospital. They had did an interview with me and my oldest child and decided not to remove my children because there was no probable cause to remove them. Upon our release, we didn't get released till maybe like 8 o'clock in the morning. We arrived at the hospital, I want to say maybe 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, and didn't leave until the next morning. Upon our release, we went back home. I got a call from the DCF worker stating that she needed us to go to, it's called First Coast, and it's where they take all the children to be interviewed. So we go there, they interview me, they interview my oldest child. So as I'm sitting in the room, I'm waiting on, I guess, the physician to measure my kids and things. So one of the workers come into the room and she says, "We're removing your children from you." And I say, "Well, what's the reason why my children are being removed?" And she said, "Because we feel as though your children are not under great supervision. We feel that you didn't give great supervision, the reason why your child's back got burned." So um, there was a little bit of I was very emotional. I was crying. One of the DCF workers were standing in front of the door. As they told me they were removing my kids, they wouldn't let me hold them, they wouldn't let me touch them. They just immediately like removed them. So the DCF worker was standing in front of the door and she was just like blocking me as I was trying to exit the premises. So I was trying to understand like what's going on because they had already notified me that they were removing my kids. I knew that I had to be to court the next day. So I was just curious as to why she seemed like she was trying to provoke me. So she was like standing in the doorway bouncing back and forth. So as she was bouncing back and forth, an officer came in. The officer caught what she was doing and he asked her, "What are you doing? What's going on here? What do you need me for?" And she was like, "Well, we need you to have her exit off the premises." And he was like, "Well, it looks like that's what she's trying to do." He was like, "I can't attest to what's going on here, but what it looks like is that she's being provoked." He said, "Ma'am, can I get you to step aside?" So once he got her to step aside, he got me to step outside. He talked to me maybe for like 2 hours straight, telling me that he can understand that I'm very emotional because they're my children. But he said that I had to treat it like a business. He said that it's not the end of the world. You do have a chance to fight and get them back. So at first, in my head, I'm thinking that this is an ordinary case. So I got a job. I got a place to stay. I completed the circle of security. I completed therapy. I did everything that was asked of me in order to obtain my children back. I went and bought cameras for my house. Went and bought security monitors. Everything like did the plugs, the corners for the table, just everything. The children were returned back to me in November and December of 2020. So they only were gone for 2 months. After the children were returned back to me on February the 5th a criminal case was built upon me. The criminal case was um, orchestrated, and the reason why I say that it was orchestrated is because the police officers came to the hospital and decided not to take any case because there was an accident between two siblings. There was a caseworker that was on the case that was having a personal relationship with the father of my kids. When I found out that the caseworker was having a personal relationship with the father of my kids, we spoke about it. Honestly, like, I didn't really care about it. I just wanted her not to bother me and my kids if it didn't work out for her and him. Um, they ended up building a case. The caseworker ended up taking the pictures of my child back to a state attorney. The state attorney that she took them to is kin to one of the caseworkers that was one of the workers that was on the case. So after the social worker took the pictures to the state attorney, they built up this case. A detective went to my grandmother's house and left a letter and said that she needed me to call her. Once I called her, she told me that she needed to speak with me and that if I didn't come to speak with her, that she would take my freedom from me, and those are big facts. So February the 5th of 2021, I went down to the station to talk to her, where I was arrested and charges were placed on me. It was a F1 that was placed on me. I did 8 months in jail. I came out and became a convicted felon. I was in med school, had 1 month left to complete. Came out, became a convicted felon. Upon my release, I was diagnosed with PTSD. When I was diagnosed with PTSD, the doctor told me that she was diagnosing me because she felt as though I had been dealing with the situation a little bit too long and that it had traumatized me. It wasn't until I want to say September, October. I got released September the 10th of 2021. It wasn't until September, October till I started realizing that this wasn't an original, it wasn't a regular dependency case. The caseworker eventually ended up leaving. There was a worker from another agency that she ended up leaving. She said that she told me what's about to take place, I want no parts of. You're a great mom. I don't understand why they're about to do what they're about to do to you. I never really paid any attention to what she was saying because I didn't understand what was taking place. Okay, so um November the 13th of 2021, my oldest child came home. December the 27th of 2021, my younger two kids came home. Upon them coming home, one of the workers came to my house and told me that if the father wanted the children, that they would have to remove them from me. Mind you, during my time of incarceration, the father was contacted, was offered a case plan, and refused to do the case plan. Refused to have any contact with the children, told them do not reach back out to him anymore. Okay, so after this, everything's going good for me and my kids. I'm just thinking everything's regular. I started to have problems with my bank account. Um, there would be like I would get notifications sent to me stating that someone was using my card in California, Chicago, Tampa, Georgia, Texas, Alabama. I just kept getting notifications. So my bank was also my kids' account was also hooked up to my account. So I went to the bank. I tried to switch all of our accounts over. Once I successfully switched our accounts over, it wasn't until I want to say maybe I switched our accounts over in March the 28th. It wasn't until maybe like April the 1st that I found out that the teller never closed the account out. Okay, so all the money started being pulled out of the account. You can see like it being pulled out, but you can't see how it's being pulled out. So I ended up freezing the account and they ended up like doing a thorough investigation. So upon them doing a thorough investigation, I started having more problems with uh, my identity as far as someone using my identity on IRS, getting loans, doing taxes and all other sorts of things in my name and in my oldest daughter's name. They ended up getting access to my phones and the camera systems in my house and completely took the Apple card off the phone. I don't know how they did it, but they took the Apple card completely off the phone. Okay, so I called the police. I told the caseworker. I started reporting it to the police. I never really had to call the police. So I was very uneducated about the fact that if they do a report, they have to give you a booklet. So none of the officers never gave me a booklet, but they told me that they put a report in. So I'm thinking, okay, the report's in. April the 5th, I called the caseworker because Orlando had like this water park 2-day for $59. So I was gonna take my kids. And mind you, my case was supposed to close out April the 18th of 2022. April the 5th, I called the caseworker. I said, hey, look, I want to take my kids to Orlando. She says, you can't take them out of the city of Jacksonville. Mind you, on the court order, when you obtain custody of your children back, it says that as long as you let them know where you're going to be at, who you're going to be with, what time you're going to be there, when you're going to come back, you're allowed to take your kids. So she tells me that I can't take my kids and she needs to contact her supervisor. So the supervisor ends up calling me and says, no, you cannot take your kids. So I pick my kids up from daycare and I come home and I see the police sitting outside of my door. So I get out the truck, me and my kids, and the officer automatically walks up to me and says, ma'am, I need to search your vehicle. I heard that you have a gun. So I'm like confused, wondering where it came from. So they searched the vehicle, they searched the apartment. So he says, ma'am, I need for you to step over in front of my vehicle. So he asked me for my ID. So I give him my driver's license. So he goes back in the car. At this point, I realize I'm not being treated like a victim. I'm being treated as a suspect. So he's running my name, trying to see if I have any warrants or anything. So he comes back out in front of the car. So I'm like, sir, like I have smaller children. So I'm like, I need to attend to my children because at this point they're running across the street. There's cars coming in, coming out. So they're running across the street. So he's like, no, I need you to stay right here in front of this car. I need to protect you. I need you to stay right here in front of this car. So I was like, what are you protecting me from? So then he says, hold on. He goes and get back in his car, and another police officer pulls up. So once the other police officer pulls up, they come up and they say, well, we got a call stating you have a gun. We need you to step to the front of the car and we need you to remain at the front of the car. You're being detained at this moment. So immediately I call my caseworker and let her know what's going on because I'm confused at this point. So she's on the phone with me. She's like, what's going on? She was like, do I need to talk to him? I was like, I don't know. He said that he heard that I had a gun. And she's like, oh, well, what? Did they find any gun? I was like, no, like, why would I have a gun? Like, and so she's like talking to me, trying to reassure me, like, well, it's probably nothing. They're probably going to leave. I was like, yeah, but he won't even let me leave. At that point in time, I had on a dress and I had started my menstrual and it was kind of sprinkling. So you could see like the blood running down my leg while people are riding by. So I'm telling the officer, hey, look, you can detain me. My apartment's upstairs. Y'all can block the door, whatever you need to do. I just don't want to be standing outside like this. I need to tend to my kids. So he's like, no, I need you to stand right here. So as I'm talking to the caseworker, she's like, hold on, let me call you back. So she gets off the phone. So I'm texting her at this point because he's talking about taking me to jail. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. They're saying that I have a gun. They haven't found any gun. They're trying to take me to jail. My kids are here. I need you to come to the scene. So she ends up calling me back and she's like, put me on speakerphone. So I put her on speakerphone and I'm like, she wants to talk to you. So the officer never wanted to talk to her. He told me, okay, well, you can go ahead about your business. Um, like I said, all my cameras, I had a Apple phone. I went through 7 phones between last year and this year. I went through 7 phones. They've came into my apartment. They've snatched all the cameras out. They compromised every single phone that I have. They've drained my bank account. Basically, pretty much what I'm dealing with CPS is a human trafficking case. Um, so anyway, so the officer tells us we're free to go. So we come in the house, we start getting ready. So as we're getting ready, there's a knock on the door. So my oldest child comes and get me, and she's like, "Mom, it's DCF." So I'm like, "What's DCF doing here?" So I go to the door, and she's like, "Ma'am, I got a call stating that you're having paranoid behavior. Could I come inside and talk to you?" I was like, "Sure, come inside." So she comes inside, she's sitting on the couch. So the whole time, like, she's talking to me, she's talking about the allegations that she heard. And I said, okay, man, well, you need to just, in order for you to conduct your investigation, you need to start like clearing out your checklist for your allegations. So come on, let me show you that all of my utilities are working. You see that my apartment is fully furnished, it's clean in here. Let me show you that I have food. Let me take you in the room with my children. Let's strip them down so you can examine their bodies up and down. Now, by her being an investigator and this being her job, this would be the first thing that I would think that she would be looking for, because her job is to make sure that the children are in a stable, safe place. So after she does that, she comes back out and she's like, okay, well, let me go talk to my supervisor. So she goes and she talks to her supervisor. So while she's talking to her supervisor, she comes back in and she says, is there anywhere that you can go for tonight? And I was like, well, I have my own place. Why would I leave my own place? And then she's like, okay, well, hold on just a second. Let me go back. Let me get back on the phone. So she goes back outside. When she goes back outside, I get a knock at the door. There's a new person standing at the door. So I allow her to come in. So I'm like, well, what's going on? Now there's two workers here. And she's like, well, we're just here, just making sure everything's okay, just making sure that everything's fine. So I'm sitting down, we're playing with the kids and stuff. So then the other worker comes back in and says, well, we just received a call stating that you do drugs. So at this point, I felt like she was looking for something that she couldn't find anything. Because mind you, they said I had a gun. They searched my truck, searched my apartment, and found nothing, literally nothing. So at this point, I was offended. I'm not gonna lie, I was very offended. So I told her, I said, I'm on probation. I pee for my probation officer. If you need to see my pee, you can have the judge order me to go pee, or you can get it from my officer. So she goes back outside and she's on the phone for like maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So at this point, I'm calling all my family members, letting them know what's going on. So she comes back inside and she says, Miss Farmer, I'm gonna have to remove your children from you. We feel as though that you're having a mental breakdown. My youngest child got diagnosed with epilepsy. Of March the 27th, my child got diagnosed with epilepsy. So she's like, we feel like you're having a mental breakdown. Your youngest child just got diagnosed with epilepsy. It's a bit too much for you to handle. But I'm not displaying any paranoid behavior. I'm talking to her, holding a full conversation with her, and she makes this diagnosis. So she says, we're gonna take your kids for a week. We're gonna get you to do a psych evaluation. Upon your psych evaluation, if everything's okay, we'll return your kids. Mind you, they had already given my kids like back 3 times. They took them, gave them back, took them, gave them back, took them, gave them back. Each time was an excuse. Like there was nothing that was going on. It was just an excuse that they plotted on me. Okay, so she signs this little paper stating that the mother is showing impulsive behavior. She is not allowed to be around the kids unless supervised. So then I get in a call from my appointed attorney. So my appointed attorney, the first thing she says, mind you, I haven't called her and said anything. My caseworker never pulled up to the scene. My attorney just calls already knowing what's going on. She's like, oh, did anybody like slip a drug on you? Is there something going on? I was like, no, what are you talking about? And she was like, well, DCS at your house right now, the best thing for you to do would be to cooperate and sign every documentation that she gives you. Mind you, I'm not educated on how the system works. So I'm thinking that she's telling me this in my best interest. So I signed the documentation. They said, we're going to take all 3 of your children to this woman's house. They tell me her name. They're going to be there for a week. After your psych eval, we'll return them. I get a call at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're telling me that they're putting my children in foster care. All my family members that came forward to get my children, they said that they were not eligible. Mind you, nobody had a criminal record. One of them even had license as a foster parent, and they still were deemed uneligible to get my children. So they placed my children in the system. April the 6th, I get a call from the attorney. She says, because mind you, I'm having a problem with identity theft at the same time. She says, oh, send me all your evidence on why you said that you're having a problem with identity theft. I didn't know that the only thing that she needed was completion of my circle of security, which is my parenting class, completion of therapy, proof of employment, proof of residency. These are the things that she needed to prove that I was an eligible parent. But instead, I was deceived and asked the proof of my identity theft. So I sent her proof thinking that that's what the judge wanted to see because, mind you, this is my attorney. I'm thinking that she has the best interest at heart. So everything that I sent her, she shows to the judge. So we're in court, and I'm like, Your Honor, I've been dealing with the same case. There's been no new calls, no new case. It's been the same case for 3 years. I've completed everything that has been asked of me. I've been very respectful, even with all the disrespect and the lies. I really feel like I deserve for my children to come home. I don't know what caused this problem. There was no gun found at the scene. I went in court order. I got court ordered to do a urinalysis. Negative. Negative. So I said, Your Honor, I feel like I deserve for my kids to come home. After I said that, he said, Well, what does anybody else have to say against this? So my attorney spoke up and she was like, mind you, we didn't pre-rehearse anything. I didn't really know like what they were expecting me to say. So she was like, Miss Farmer has something she wants to say to the court. So at this time, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to be saying to the court? I've already told them that I completed everything that was asked of me and that I feel like my children should be at home with me. So at that point in time, I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be saying. So the judge hits his gavel and he's like, well, I find probable cause to shelter the children. They will be placed in foster care until the mother can prove that she's psychotically fit to take care of them. So the case ends up going to a magistrate. So the magistrate tells me, I tell the magistrate everything that happened. I said, because at this point in time, now I'm starting to read things. I'm starting to educate myself on things. So I said, Your Honor, with all due respect, there was no abandonment, abuse, neglect, or imminent harm found to have probable cause to remove my children. I want to know why my children were really removed. She said, Well, they said they have a concern for your mental health. Mind you, my children were removed from me 3 times and there was no concern for no mental health. Okay. So she said, Well, they said they have a concern for your mental health. So I said, Okay, well, what do I need to do to prove that I'm mentally stable? So she says, Well, go to the agency that they send you to, take a psych evaluation and take a parent skill fitness. So I voluntarily go to an agency. The first agency that I went to, the psychiatrist was on a level 10. He was screaming at me. He was trying to tell me that I was court ordered, which I wasn't court ordered. I didn't have a case plan because they didn't have reason to remove my children. So he was screaming at me, trying to tell me what my name was. And I said, with all due respect, sir, you're a psychiatrist and my voice is lower than yours. So I don't feel that we need to continue this session. I'll get in contact with the supervisor and I have them send me to someone else. So I end up going to a different agency. Upon me going to a different agency, um, I went in, I signed consent forms. It was like a therapy session. I told her what was going on. She asked me, why do you think that they removed your kids? I said, well, they told me that they had a concern for my mental health. She said, honey, there are people that are really crazy for real and they still have their children. So that's not an accurate reason why they removed your children. I said, well, ma'am, well, that's what they told me. I said, anything that you need me to do, any tests you need me to take, would you like to drug test me? She said, no, you're very self-aware of where you're at. She said, you're very competent. She said, you're very spiteful. She said, no, I don't need to drug test you. I know you're not on drugs. She said, but I advise you to get to the bottom of why they really removed your kids.
Well, hold on, Miss Farmer. Hold on. Are your kids in your custody right now?
No, they're not.
Okay. When was your last court hearing?
My last court hearing was on January the 30th.
And when's your next court hearing?
It's March the 24th.
Do you know what type of hearing it is?
It's trial. They want to terminate my rights.
Okay, so you're already at the end of the case.
Correct.
Okay. And do you have a court-appointed attorney?
I do.
Okay, have you spoken to this person about a strategy?
So this is the thing. This is the reason why I
Oh,
say
no,
that.
Miss Farmer. That's a yes or no. Have you talked to your attorney about a strategy?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in California, when you're waiting to approach your termination hearing, you can file a petition. It's called a 388 petition, but you can file a petition to try to get more family reunification services, to even have the children return, to get more liberal and frequent visitation. And I would guess there is something like that in Florida, is there?
Um, it is, but they're not. They don't want to do it.
Who's they?
The judge, the court system, the attorneys.
Well, wait a minute. The judge and the court system have nothing to do with whether you and your attorney file this. Now, you may file it and lose, but you still have to file it, in my opinion. So I would talk to your attorney about this. Your
I
attorney's like,
have.
and one of the other things they do in California to give you a little bit of an advantage is to file a motion for a bonding study. Do they do that in your state as well?
I'm not sure of that one.
So you might want to talk to your attorney about that and see if he or she has any information. Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Are your kids with family members or friends? Why is that?
They just never placed them with them. I had my father come forward. I've had my aunt come forward. I've had my cousins come forward. They said, oh, well, we got to get a home study done. The home study's been done for months, but they just won't place them with anyone. My youngest child has been sexually abused while being in foster care, and it's been covered up. The attorneys that are on my case won't turn in any information. These people have used their immunity on me. I recently just got out of hospital because the diagnosis that I told you guys that I got diagnosed with was a false diagnosis.
What was the diagnosis?
PTSD. My body was rejecting the Prozac, and my heart almost bust. I recently just got out of the hospital. I was on a heart monitor. They had to discontinue all medications. I had to see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist wanted to know who prescribed the medication. When I told him who prescribed it, he said, well, how did she get the diagnosis? I said, well, she said, because I've been dealing with DCF that I have PTSD. He said, were
Okay,
there any?
hold on a second. Why were you prescribed Prozac?
That's what she prescribed me.
Do you know what it's for?
No.
Have you ever talked to your attorney about why your children weren't placed with family members or friends?
Yes.
And what was the conclusion?
She said that she doesn't know. She said that everything was already sealed when she got the case. She doesn't know what's going on.
Okay, so I want you to know, and for you to talk to your attorney about this, and everyone else that's watching. If your children are ever placed in strange foster homes, the first thing that you and your attorney should be doing is trying to make a motion to have the children placed with friendly relatives or friends. Now, it just so happens in California, and I would guess in other states, but I'm not sure, you can have the children placed anywhere in the world, actually. Um, Anywhere in the United States for sure, because of something called the Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. So a lot of times people will tell me, oh, the social worker said I can't place the children with Aunt May because she lives in Nevada and the case is in California. Well, that's not true. Or here's the one I hear more frequently, a case in LA County. Oh, the kids can't be placed in San Francisco County because it's too far away. The way the law is written is that the children can be placed with, or should be placed with relatives. In California, and there's probably a section like this in your state, but you'd have to ask your attorney for sure. There's a Welfare and Institutions Code Section 309 that says, the children should be placed with relatives or what they call nephrons, friends of the family. Now, this is very important because when you get to the end of the case, maybe these people will be more friendly and decide not to adopt your children. And then, it will be giving you maybe an indefinite amount of time to try to get your children back. So I want you to talk to your attorney about this tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean that he or she can get the children placed with relatives at this stage of the game. It's going to be an uphill battle, right? But it's a battle that you should, in my opinion, endeavor to take, because you should never give up on your children. Okay? When your family reunification services were terminated, had you been participating in everything that you
I
were supposed to?
completed it. I completed it.
Have you had a recent psychological evaluation? And did it come back clean? I mean, did it come back?
Yes, and they wouldn't take it. The first attorney that I had appointed for me wouldn't file no documentation in the system. The second attorney that I have, she won't file any documentation. They just take it. I've literally made copies and copies and copies of everything because they just take it. They don't turn it in and then they tell me that I haven't given it to them.
You might want to make I don't know if they have this argument in Florida, but they have it in California. If you're not properly represented, especially by a court-appointed attorney, you can have everything overturned on a concept called ineffective assistance of counsel. At least in California, they felt it's a constitutional right to be appointed a competent attorney. And if you're not appointed a competent attorney, it violates some of your constitutional rights, such that they have to throw the case out and perhaps start all over.
Correct. You're right where I'm at, sir. Correct.
Oh, do they have that in Florida?
Correct. And I have all my documentation proving everything. I've been recently evaluated again, and the psychiatrist, because I haven't seen my kids in 3 months and 19 days. The psychiatrist evaluated me. They administered state of the art test, and I was deemed healthy.
Okay.
And
Well, wait, hold on. Your rights haven't been terminated, correct?
correct.
You said you haven't seen your kids or talked to your kids in 3 months?
Correct.
Does the judge and your attorney know that?
The judge is the one that ordered it. The judge told me that I had kids by a very strong family that has a lot of pull, and unfortunately it's unfair, but it is what it is, and he apologizes from the bottom of his heart sincerely. That's what he told me. Yes, ma'am. That is what he told me.
Wait, hold on. Repeat that, because I don't think I heard you correctly.
November the 18th, the judge told me, unfortunately, Miss Farmer, you've had some kids by a man that has very strong resources. I apologize to you, but unfortunately, this situation is unfair, but it is what it is. I apologize to you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. That is what he told me.
Georgette, how do you take that?
Georgette is guest right now. So everything that I have been telling you guys about judges, it's right. It's right all along. I mean, literally, judges are not to be trusted. They don't make decisions in the courthouse. It's higher up that makes decision. People that have power and control over the system that makes decision. The social worker makes decision. All this shit is happening and it's right in front of our eyes. Okay?
But Georgette, my question is,
this is pissing me off.
The comment that the judge allegedly made, what does that mean? I didn't understand the comment.
It means that her significant other that she had children with has connection with somebody higher up that oversees the judge. Meaning,
well, why would the father?
There's a lot of people, but Vincent, let me finish. There's a lot of social workers who have connections with the cartels. You think I'm lying? This shit is real.
No, it is. It really is.
They have connections with the cartels. Judges have connections with the cartels. I told you guys a million times, a judge was arrested on Memorial Day weekend transporting CPS children to be sex trafficked in Texas.
It's happening. It's happening.
Judges are afraid of the cartels. There's very strong hold. Cartels have a very strong hold with the court system.
When you're talking about cartels, are you talking about drug cartels?
No, my grandmother. Of course, I'm talking about the drug cartels. Come on, Vincent. Who else is cartels out there?
Oh, there are a lot of different types of cartels.
Okay, well, I only know of one: drug cartels.
Okay.
Okay, there's so many of them sex trafficking children. They're choosing children in foster home. I just read an article about two gay couple, millionaires, adopted two boys, two innocent boys. They were being sex trafficked. They were making more money off of those boys. Okay, the mother and the father did nothing to those boys. They were never abused. But guess what? Those two couple, gay couple, had sex with the boys, opened them up to other men to have sex with them. They were videotaping the boys. And
Where
other
did you see this
neighbors,
article?
this is on the news.
Where?
I have to find it for you. I'm going to use it on my show, coming up show soon. But what I'm saying to you,
Okay,
I just
hold on. When is your show?
on the 2nd of March, which is Thursdays, is going to be on Thursdays and Fridays.
So you're doing a show in a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you're going to have a link or something to this story that you're just telling us?
Yes, it's going to be it's still going to be Real Talk with Miss G, but I added a group of people that's going to be kind of similar to The View. So we're going to all have to talk. We're all going to talk about, family law and CPS, cases, and we're going to have different views on different cases.
Okay, well, I'm going to watch the show because I want to see the link to this story.
I think it's going to be great, and I'm going to have old co-hosts that were with me before, but they took some time off because they were dealing with their own trauma with CPS. But they're coming back.
Well, give us a preview. Who's going to be on the show?
Darren Guay, Michael Cartinas, and Mary Guay, Darren's wife. And I am adding a few more people, but I still need to speak to them about the schedule. It's going to be a great show.
What time is the show?
It's going to start at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Is it going to be a half hour, 2 hours? What?
It could go up to a 2-hour show.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be great. And if you guys want to be a guest and want to join me, that's fine. Join us. That's fine. It's going to be called, I'll tell you right now. Can't remember it. It's going to be Real Talk with Miss G and the gang. It's basically joining us in the effort of exposing CPS and family court corruption.
No, that sounds very interesting. I'm going to have to tune in and watch.
It's going to be exactly like The View. It's everybody will have their own topic and their own message to bring across to everyone. My goal is to bring this nationwide, and I'm hoping it's going to be countrywide. And I'm also working with a journalist, investigative journalist, and hopefully he will be on the show with us pretty soon as well.
Now, Ms. Farmer, I wasn't even invited to this party. Is there a reason, Miss G?
I'm
sure there is, and you don't want to say. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Bart. I'm sorry. Miss Farmer, let's go back to you. Okay, so let's go back to Miss Farmer. Let's talk about this another show, Mr. Davis.
Is Miss Deidre Payne watching? Is she on the thing?
Yes, Deidre is watching, and Barbara is watching.
Miss Payne, you see how I'm being treated? You see how I'm being treated?
Miss Payne, you love GT. Come on, Miss Payne, say something. Get GT's back for this guy. Oh my God.
Okay.
Whoa, that's insane.
Hey, you know what? We're coming to the end of the show. Ms. Farmer, I really want to thank you for being on and sharing your story with us. It is very much appreciated. I wish you luck in your case. Yes. Yes, Miss GT.
Mr. Davis, are you mad at me? Be nice.
No, not at all.
Okay, Ms. Farmer, is there any way you can call me? Because he did mention something that really triggered my soul about that judge. Would you please call me? Call the office and ask for Miss G. and tell them that you were on the show and Miss G asked you to call her.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will text you from my cell number. I will give you my name on my cell, from my cell, and I will tell you, I will let you know that I'm going to call you. Right before I call you, I always text people that I'm going to call them. Okay.
Okay.
That way you have access of me whenever you need, if you have any questions. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Farmer, MSG. Thank you for being the co-host this evening. And I want to thank everybody for watching and tell everyone watch Miss G's show on March 2nd at 1 p.m. on all of these social media platforms. And watch me tomorrow night at 7 p.m. All right.
Wait, what? Tomorrow? Watch you tomorrow? What about me? Am I excluded? Did you
Oh
take me
no,
out?
you excluded me from your show. You
Oh
know.
no, I wasn't expecting anything. Oh my God.
Okay, watch me and Miss G tomorrow night.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'll
We'll
talk
see
to you
everyone.
later, Ms. Farmer.
Okay.
We'll see everyone tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night.
Good night.